talk the talk, but he also walks the talk. Niagara Falls, I always say, we offer a buffet of fun and excitement, and there's always some new offering that we can bring to the people to get them to stay longer and to come more often. So I just want to say, on behalf of the City of Niagara Falls, welcome. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to the Premier, to our ministers, and I want to say thank you, and we very much look forward to your announcement. I'm honored to welcome you here today. Thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm honored to be here today and be joined by my colleagues, the Honourable Neil Lumsden, the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport. We have the Honourable Caroline Mulroney, a friend of ours and a friend of Niagara's, the Minister of Francophone Affairs and the Minister of Transportation. It's great also today to have Jim Bradley, the Chair of the Niagara Regional Municipality of Niagara here. Of course, Jim Diodati, the Mayor of the City of Niagara Falls. Today I also have the unique privilege of standing next to our Premier, the Honourable Doug Ford, someone who is a champion for Niagara and for working families across Ontario. Our government is making many key investments across Ontario and in Niagara to get this province moving. We're building schools, we're building hospitals and community centres, we're building roads and investing in regional transit. We're twinning the Garden City Skyway to reduce gridlock and improve commute times for drivers, and we're getting this province moving. It's all part of a plan to build Ontario together, to keep Ontario open, to grow our economy, attract investment, develop a highly skilled workforce, invest in critical infrastructure, and address affordability for families, workers, and seniors. This work will lead to prosperity now and in the future. Today, it's an exciting day. We are going to be hearing more good news from our Premier regarding the PC government's plan for prosperity in Niagara today and going forward. I would now like to welcome Minister Lumsden to the podium.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here and back so soon after the completion of a massively successful 2022 Canada Summer Games, where Ontario, I'm proud to say, won a total of 198 medals. Yeah, 198 medals, which is a Games all-time record. It's never a bad thing to set records in sports. Thanks to the Niagara region and everyone involved for extending a warm Ontario welcome to all our visitors from across this country, especially the competitors. Niagara is a $1.8 billion tourist industry and welcomes more than 1.2 million visitors every year, with hundreds of attractions, including the historic sites, vineyards, parks, water parks, which is one of my favorites, live theater, music, and a whole lot more. It really is one of the top destinations for tourists on the planet. Know this, our government is committed to growing Ontario's tourism industry even more with initiatives like the Ontario Staycation Tax Credit, and with that, we're going to do more and more. With that, please welcome my colleague, Minister of Transportation, Caroline Mulroney.
Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. It is so great to be back in Niagara with so many colleagues and friends. The Greater Golden Horseshoe is poised to grow to 15 million people in the next 30 years. That's the size of the province of Ontario today. And as more people return to transit for work and leisure, Ontarians need their transportation network to keep up. GO expansion is a key part of our plan to fight gridlock and to ensure a reliable and connected network for generations to come. I'm proud to be part of a government under the leadership of this Premier that has made transit a priority. Premier Ford is leading the charge on the largest transit expansion Ontario has ever seen, which will include more frequent GO service throughout the entire network, including Niagara. This work will make travel easier, drive our economy, create jobs, and unlock access to world-class tourist destinations like Niagara Falls. The future of Transit Ontario is bright. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce Ontario's greatest champion of transit and tourism, Premier Doug Ford.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and it's great to be here in beautiful Niagara. And I want to thank the mayor for having us by. I always say, is it the greatest mayor or the best mayor? Because I think I called another mayor the best, and I got a phone call from him right away. But he is one of the greatest mayors we have in Ontario. Thank you, Minister Mulroney, for that introduction and for being here along with Minister Lumsden and MPP Oosterhoff. Let me start by welcoming Mayor Diodati, Regional Chair Jim Bradley, and I always say the all-star of all all-stars, Phil Verster, the CEO of Metrolink. So thank you, Phil, and it's an absolute pleasure to be back in Niagara. Before the pandemic, over 12 million people came here to visit each and every year. That's an incredible number, 12 million. And since our government was elected in 2018, we've been supporting the people and the businesses of Niagara region. That's why in 2019, we launched year-round GO train service from Union Station in Toronto to Niagara Falls, which led to a large increase of riders using GO each and every single day for trips to Niagara. But at the height of the pandemic, the service had to be paused as tourism ground to a halt and the people were staying home to stop the spread of COVID. Those were very, very tough days for the region. But we always said that this service would come back as soon as possible. And today, we're keeping our promise to Niagara by restoring GO train service to the region 365 days a year, which is good. By including 2 round trips each day on weekends from Union Station to Niagara Falls starting October the 15th. Bringing this service back will be a huge boost for the people and businesses of Niagara, bringing thousands of new and returning visitors to the region every year. And more GO trains mean fewer cars on the QEW. That's less traffic and less gridlock on a major highway, giving commuters more time to spend at home with their families. This is just one part of our mission to build Ontario by bringing more transit options to one of the fastest growing areas of the province. With new GO stations, oh boy, here we go again. With new, they're hunting me down, the relatives now, sorry. With new GO stations being planned along the Lakeshore West Rail Line to support more frequent service. Because over the next 10 years, Ontario's population is expected to grow by more than 2 million people. That's why we have a plan to build. It's why we're building more transit, roads, and highways, so Ontario will be ready to handle the increased demand. We're installing fast and reliable rail options from Niagara in the west to Bowmanville in the east and to Timmins and Cochrane in the north. We're investing a historic $86.6 billion over the next decade to build and expand roads, highways, and transit across Ontario, including the 413 and the Bradford Bypass. We're building the infrastructure that Ontario's economy needs to reach its full potential. Together with our partners, we're getting it done by building Ontario, now and for the future. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
Okay, we will now take questions from the media. Just a reminder, it's 1 question, 1 follow-up.
Hi.
Hi, Carl Dockstader from 610 CKTV News. Thanks for coming and having the press conference today. Is there still a plan to build a second Skyway? And if you're investing in a Skyway, does money being spent on roads compete directly with money that's being spent on rail?
No, I wouldn't say that, because there's always going to be roads and opportunities to expand highways along with rail transit. No matter if we're expanding the GO rail system or if we're expanding the largest subway infrastructure project in North America, in Toronto. But you know who understands this better than I do? Our great Minister of Transportation. So I'll pass it over to Caroline.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, actually, the Premier did a great job of answering it. No, it does not compete, and we're looking at doing a holistic transportation plan that includes all modes of transportation.
A follow-up question then, could you, is it still? Could you comment on if there is still a plan to move forward with twinning of the Skyway in St. Catharines specifically, and then speak to induced demand and the theory that if you build more roads, there's just going to be more competition for the same amount of roads that already exist?
Well, I can't give you any specifics on the Skyway at this time, but what I can say with respect to induced demand is I think that most drivers in Ontario believe that we already have exceeded our capacity on most of our roadways. And so the demand is already there. And we're actually, under the leadership of our Premier, building the roads that should have been built years ago, like the Bradford Bypass and Highway 413. But we have a very balanced transportation plan that includes, as you heard, $86.6 billion in infrastructure. For every dollar we spend on roads, we spend $3 on transit. And that's why GO Rail expansion is such a big part of our government's plan to keep people moving.
Hi, Premier.
Hi.
Al Sweeney from CHCH in Hamilton.
How
I've
are
never
you?
spoken to you before, so it's good to see you here.
Well, welcome, and thank you for coming here.
Your GO Transit expansion. The Haudenosaunee Development Institute on Six Nations is expressing concerns about this. They say the GO Transit expansion is leading to development of areas on their land or in areas which they have an interest, like a hunting right. They're not being consulted in this, and they're not sharing in the benefits of it. And further, they're threatening disruptions next month.
Well, I have a phenomenal relationships with our Indigenous communities, First Nations. I talk to chiefs right across this province literally every single day. But I'm going to pass this over to our CEO, Phil Verster. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. We've been working very closely with HDI over many, many months now, since last year. And the HDI, quite reasonably, are bringing issues for discussion. We work, as you can imagine, our rail corridor is an existing corridor. There are some extensions we make, which is just within the rail corridor already. But there are definitely items of work where you build a bridge over a waterway and stuff like that. Where we should and must consult. And we've got an agreement. We're meeting with the HDI somewhere back end of August again. We've made a proposal on how to get to an agreement on how to build the relationship from here onwards. We have already agreed with HDI on monitors to attend our projects. And I'm very confident that we will find a way forward with HDI. We work with 13 nations across all of our network. And so this is really important stuff for us. We consult, we work very, very closely on sensitive archaeological digs. Monitors are funded by us. We've got a good program, and I'm confident we'll get to an agreement with HDI.
Thanks. Supplementary for you, Premier.
Yes.
This is from our friends at City TV. They asked us to ask this question. Regarding COVID, why dissolve the science table now? Are you saying COVID is over? And will there still be public analysis of wastewater going forward so people know how much COVID is out there?
Well, I got to thank my friends from City. Good question. We aren't dissolving it. We're actually transferring it over to public health. They had an incredible relationship throughout this pandemic. They're going to have a full-time home rather than be put out there in limbo. And we always have to be cautious. We always have to measure the wastewater. And again, I'm probably one of the most cautious when it comes to that. So thank you. They're going to have a full-time home over at public health and working with Dr. Moore.
Thanks.
Hi, it's Ray Spiteri with the Niagara Falls Review.
Hi, Ray. How you doing?
Not bad. How are you doing?
Excellent.
Premier, can you expand on the expansion of GO in Niagara? How directly is this an improvement to what we were seeing when the government announced the expansion in 2019? And what could Niagara see in the future when it comes to even further expansion?
Well, what we're going to do right off the hop is make sure that we have 2 trips every single day from Union Station in Niagara, bringing more tourists to this area. It's an incredible area. They're going to continue looking at other areas of expansion in Niagara. And again, I'm going to have to hand it over to the experts here. I'll hand it over to the minister. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so as the Premier said, we are announcing today the return of weekend service on a permanent basis. So 365 days a year, there will be GO service to Niagara, which I know is incredibly exciting for the residents of this region. Going forward, we're looking at two-way all-day GO service across core sections of our network, including in Niagara. And our government recently nominated this project for federal funding. And so we're looking forward to working with Infrastructure Canada on getting those investments done. And maybe I'll turn it over to Phil if you've got some more technical details.
Thank you, Minister. Look, it's ridership, isn't it? And what we've seen now, post-COVID, the weekday ridership has returned roughly to about the same level it was pre-COVID, but the weekend ridership is phenomenally up, and the service is very popular. This is why the Minister and the Premier is making the announcement today. But let me give you a sense of the connectivity of this extension. At Beamsville, we're working with Lincoln and the region and a developer, and we've got an agreement on the table since early 2022. When that's finalized, that developer can proceed and the station can be built at Beamsville. Similarly, at Grimsby, we're also working with the region. The region's very constructively engaged, and we have similarly a transit-oriented community development strategy there. There, a station can be built imminently when the design is at 30% and completed. At Confederation, there's ongoing works which we expect to now pick up rhythm. We're building a center platform, we're building a tunnel, pedestrian tunnel. We already have a park and ride, so that will open. At East Harbour, there are 2 stop-in tracks that we're going to connect back into the main line that will allow us to increase services and not have to reverse trains in and out of West Harbour. And then for us, the most important real development is that between Aldershot and Burlington, we're negotiating a really pragmatic arrangement with CN to allow us to build a 4th track and to operate a 3rd track, which would again allow us to increase services significantly. Last thought, after those 5 big investments we're making, we spent around $160 million at West Harbour as well as at Bayview. So we've created all of the essential infrastructure that allow us for capacity increases as we go on. So this is really exciting for us. This is not a commuter market. This is a tourism market. And we're very, very supportive of the growth of services on this line.
Thanks, Phil. And just one follow-up question. You mentioned COVID. Is this an announcement we may have seen pre-COVID, or is this specifically about ridership? Is this something we may have seen you here in 2019 or 2020 making this announcement?
This is about increasing tourism to Niagara region, bringing more visitors from around the world and from Toronto down here, and hopefully these trains will be packed with people enjoying the region. There's so many things to do, and I call it one of the greatest destinations in our entire country. So I encourage everyone to hop on the GO and take a ride down here, and we look forward to seeing you.
Hi there, this is Shalima Maharaj. I'm with Global News Toronto.
Hi.
My first question is just kind of bouncing off what one of my colleagues had mentioned about the science table. You mentioned that those responsibilities are going to be absorbed by public health. So given that we are just ahead of another school year, people are going to naturally be heading indoors as it gets colder outside, which means presumably more infections, and a constantly evolving virus here as well. How is this actually going to look, transferring the responsibilities over to public health? And what do you say to Ontarians, reassuring them that it will continue to be a top priority?
Well, we aren't necessarily transferring them, where the science table is actually moving over to public health, working in coordination with Dr. Moore, and we'll always take the advice off the science table along with public health. And I believe, truly, and we're always cautious, we've built up an incredible system within the education system, no matter if it's the ventilations or ventilation or giving the masks out. We're going to be still very, very cautious.
And Premier, I do have a question on behalf of one of my colleagues. We are looking for some comment from you on the resignation of Jamil Javani from his post after a tweet on June 24th in which he called the education minister incompetent.
Yeah, well, you know something, maybe that's between him and the minister. I totally disagree with that comment. I really like Jamil. I'll never forget the day he came into my office and we had a great chat, and I thought, boy, you'd be a great candidate to work on a program, which he did an incredible job for the Black Action Youth Plan that we move forward with. And I have nothing but great words to say about Jamil. He's a good person, good man, and I'll always be there for him, or he can call me if he ever needs anything. But I just want to thank him for his service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this will be the last question.
Good afternoon, Premier. Mike Walker from CTV News Toronto.
Mike.
Good. Hoping you can clarify about the science table. Why have it absorbed by Public Health Ontario? Will the work they be doing moving forward, will that change from what this independent science table has been doing throughout the course of the pandemic?
No, I don't believe it's going to change at all, but they need a home. During the pandemic, and I want to thank the science table, they all kind of came together right across the board, and they didn't have a home per se. They're going to have a home. And what better home to have than with Dr. Moore that works hand in hand with the science table. And that's where they're going to be headquartered, if you want to call it that. And we're going to continue working with them, taking their advice and their guidance along with Dr. Moore.
And just to switch gears, Bill 7. We've been hearing from advocates, from some families expressing some concern, frustration that there won't be the opportunity to have public hearings or committees. Your government's moving this to a third reading. Why bypass the public hearings and committees?
Well, we always go out for communications and talk to stakeholders right across the board, but we need to move forward on this, and we're going to get it done. But our office are always open for people to come down, discuss any issues they have, be it myself or the ministers, and we're always willing to sit down and listen to people.
Okay, now this will be the last question.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Andréane Williams with CBC Radio Canada. First question is for Mr. Ford about the consultation table for COVID. Sorry. So you're saying that the table will be transferred to public health, which means it won't be an independent organization anymore. Who made that decision and why?
Well, let's be very clear. They're always going to be independent, just like public health is. It goes back to with Dr. Moore. I do not direct Dr. Moore. I just don't. It's like I don't direct the police. And they're going to work hand in hand with Dr. Moore, public health, and it's just a natural partnership. I think they'll be quite happy. They've always had their independence, and they're going to work hand in hand with them. I feel this little bee buzzing away on my head again. Here we go. Sorry about that.
Yes, I have a follow-up question for Minister Mulroney in French. Concernant le projet de loi 7, donc en tant que ministre des Affaires francophones, pouvez-vous garantir que des aînés francophones ne seront pas transférés dans des centres de soins de longue durée anglophones en vertu du projet de loi 7? Avez-vous soulevé ces préoccupations auprès du ministre Calandra?
Mais je peux vous dire que pour la première fois dans l'histoire de l'Ontario, notre gouvernement a présenté une stratégie francophone pour les soins de longue durée. Nous sommes en train de construire pour la première fois des lits francophones, désignés francophones dans la grande région de Toronto. Et je travaille de façon étroite avec le ministre Calandra sur la mise en œuvre de cette stratégie et bien sûr comment la nouvelle loi 7 pourrait, si elle est passée, comment la stratégie doit être intégrée dans la loi 7. Merci.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
That's great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. And visit Niagara. Thank you.